Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, and my channel today is on YouTube. Is Discerning What is True. The particular book I'm going to go through today is a book by R.A. Schwaller, or Rene Schwaller de Lubicz, a Frenchman. The name of the book is simply called The Egyptian Miracle, An Introduction to the Wisdom of the Temple. And I shared something today with Facebook. The Egyptians built temples to a reminder to the people there that they had a temple within themselves. In fact, as some of you are aware, this is your temple over here. You see, this is your part of your temple. This is also where Jesus ascended. This is the ascension takes place in your head. Everything takes place in your head. You see, that is in many aspects. Doesn't mean that your heart's not important, but it does mean your head is the vital part because it is the upper part of your body. It's where you do all your thinking and reasoning and also your worrying and fear, all that type of thing takes place up here. And most of us we just don't pay attention. We just don't pay attention to what's going on because we basically become automatic at a very young age, so to speak. So the name of the chapter I'm going to be reading today is going to be called Elements and Triangles. And so we're going to be going through that today. And I appreciate you being here. Again, I'm on my channel, Discerning What is True, on YouTube. Also on Facebook, will be shared later. And also on Odyssey, also will be shared later. So let's get into the particular work here. Absolute unity is the hidden God of the Jews, the unknown God who is incomprehensible, the unutterable of the Egyptians. In other words, his name is not repeated. It is not, I'm sorry, it is Sat, the beginning being of the Brahmins, but Christians make reference to the only with regard to their dispute concerning filtration, where the Father before the centuries cycles was one and only. Hold on just a second, I'm having an issue here. Reboot it here. Okay. Okay, let's continue on. As soon as unity splits into two, presenting the two facets of any comprehensible thing, there is Trinity, because this Trinity is indissoluble and because it is found at the origin of all things. Christianity, along with all initiated religions, has posed this scenario and creative uh, divinity. A surface, the first comprehensive form, must have at least three sides. Three sounds form the perfect chord, male and female, and issue from the species, that is, two elements and one mean term are the fundamental of all reasoning, all aesthetics, all calculations, and so forth. Absolute unity cannot engender. It is stable and unvariable eternity. It is the God of gods. The world emanates from the God of gods by the mere fact that he contemplates his own face, which is the splitting of two, or splitting in two, the schism, the first of all functions, that is division. This much holds for all living things, if at the origin no division of the thing in itself takes place. there is no procreation. We can see this in the self-division of primitive beings, that is amoebas, Amoebas, Bacillia, Coccilia, Cocci, and finally in every cell during the splitting of the cells. So he shows a diagram of the carcinosis that takes place here. Let me just get to this showing you right here. The splitting up of the cell. One cell eventually leads to a division, and that cell eventually divides. Let's see. Make sure I got it right here. Okay, there it is right there. Whenever the gods of gods, the God of gods, the unutterable, divides in himself, the world becomes. The world is but the one divided. This is therefore a fundamental function that in the image of creation we must encounter each time there is creation, or rather procreation. Yet there must exist somewhere a creation as well, visible and tangible, and this guided the philosophers of old in their quests. Similarly, we again encounter this secondary creation through the inversion of itself each time an absolute state is reached, because the schism, that is separation, inversion, and dualization, forces itself upon any state that has reached the absolute expression of its nature, that is a chemical reversibility, buds in the plant world, you see. Number teaches us that through the complete analysis that it affords, the one and only then does not procreate. It is. The world is and becomes whenever it looks at itself. This is the foundation of all philosophy. In order to procreate, there must be three principles in one, comprising two opposing natures, issue one from the other, a image therefore of Adam and Eve. This is so because two is the first multiple number. 1 times 1 is always 1, and 2 times 2 makes a square, a engender surface, you see, something resulting from a function in procreation. We have now gathered knowledge of a great many things. First, regarding the nature of numbers. The one and only number, cause of all. That's A. B. The ternaria, creative foundation. B. Duality, that is the opposition of one and only. We also know the functions of all creation. That's C. Then we go back to A, being division, which manifests life. B, addition, which joins what has separated with original cause. C is the multiplication, which procreates. Another curious thing we ascertain is the set of numbers, that is 1, 2, 3, together with the first procreative form, which is 2 times 2, or the square 4. These numbers progress as triangle, and the 4 of them from the triangle 10, or the decade of 4, the tetrotits, TET are a tetra. It's the illusionist infinity of the intelligence is contained in number, starting from the number called 1. So I'm going to show you this. It's just a simple triangle, but it's using numbers, so to speak. This is at the bottom here. You can see how it forms. But you notice the one in the center is a much stronger, a larger one. The illusionary infinite of the intelligence is contained in number, starting from the number called 1, and all the possibilities of the universe are contained in this triangle. That is 10. I've done a book also. This reminds me of similar to the book he talks on, Rene does, on numbers. I did a book probably a couple of weeks ago. There is no longer room for infinity, as all the possibilities implies that there is nothing beyond. Indeed, we are unable to find other elements, other fundamental concepts, other functions that those so far discovered in this group of 10. This makes for the sanctity of the Pythagorean oath on the tetros. Let us now examine what forms are engendered in the decade. 1. There is the triangle, first possible surface. The triangle is not engendered by any movement. It is the result of an additional only, the addition of the elements manifested by schism. 2. There is the number 3 and 3, that is 6, resulting from the addition of the first triangle with the number 3, which is manifested. This number 6 is a rectangle because the sides are unequal, 2 by 2, and consists of 3 and 2. The rectangle is thus not a engendered form, but a form resulting from 2 added triangles. Number 3, there is the square resulting from a multiplication of the first number, which can be multiplied. The number 2, it is actually an engender form. It is even the universal form in the sense that all material existence is based on the square, as shall be seen later. 4, there is the circle, for absolute unity is what forever it is in itself, forever returns to itself, and never leaves itself. Therefore, all life is cyclical, according to the old adage of the initiatory philosophers. Everything dissolves into what it is made of. Everything returns to its origin. Moreover, we find in the circle all the qualities that intellect tells us must be found in the one and only. Number 5, all other existing forms are born out of these 3 fundamental forms, that is, triangle, square, and circle. But it is best to consider the circle only as a cycle and not as a form. Thus, with the decade, we have the 4 elements of all forms, like the 4 temperaments of any vital expression. This is why the ancients emphasized all of science in these words. All has come from one and returns to one through the 3 principles and the 4 elements. Why are the 4 numbers of the decade called elements? To answer, we must first of all set aside the arithmetic habit so as to see in each of these numbers no longer the addition of units, but a new entity that is altogether a new unity. There is the unity 1, the unity 2, the unity 3, the unity 4. Each is a unity that is in turn can give birth as a trinity. As a unity. Each of these unites, comprehends in it the character and qualities of preceding unites. If we now want to consider the nature of these numbers, we can plot the decade and immediate correspondence. So symbolism, and then it shows this again, a triangle. And then it shows at the very top is fire, number 1. And next is 2 is air. Number 3 is water. And number 4 is water. Earth. So it's fire, air, water, earth. And this is a rendition. Let me show this also in the book. Let's get it over here. So the fire, 1, is the cause of all. Manifested, it becomes 3 equals water, which is indeed the inverse of the cause, the opposite, as the symbol shows. Thus, there is twice the fire in water, twice fire in air, and twice air is earth. But there is in water, by direct gestation, air and fire above all. 3, which comes from 1 and 2. In earth, there is 4, that is water and fire. 3 and 1, hence all stems from the relation of fire 1 to water 3. This image here incomplete is given only to create the mentality and not to explain the elements. As for the moment, we are still in the metaphysical decade, and formed matter begins only with the number 4. As on the other hand, the elements are precisely the constituted elements of creative things. They themselves must possess the faculty of materialization. All that is born, as we already know, is born through the original triad. The elements then are not truly elements unless the 3 natures are in each. Then the nature of fire will be the triple of 1, of air the triple of 2, being water will be the triple of 3, and earth the triple of 4. And then this is showing here a demonstration here of 4 women here, and each represents a different element. One represents fire, water, air, and earth. Elements, unless the 3 natures are in each, then the nature of fire will be the triple of 1, of air the triple of 2, water will be the triple of 3, and earth the triple of 4. As the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are not arithmetic, these triplets must not be translated by 3, 6, 9, and 12, but only by 3, 3, and 3, each one of the 3s having a different nature. This is why the ancients considered each element as participating in the 3 principles, that is, figure them as triangles. Furthermore, the elements must be recognizable and distinct from one another. Hence, they do have qualities. Among all the possible qualities they form, matter can attain. Hot, cold, dry, and humid have been recognized as summing up of all the possibilities. For something to be defined, 2 of these qualities must be acknowledged, because the hot, for example, can be humid or dry. It must be specified. Thus, fire is called hot and dry, where it either absorbs, that is, fixes the humidity, or drives it away. Water that can be cold or humid is the opposite of fire. Air is called hot and humid, for it is a fire whom dryness has been vanquished. It is also water whose coldness has been vanquished by heat, as air is called nourisher or nourishment. Earth is cold and dry. It is water in which the dryness of fire has vaporized or vanished humidity. In this geology of elements is the entire science of Genesis, and it must be situated at the junction, for it asserts itself as soon as the original decade is formed. Yes, it is about Genesis. That's what created everything. This is what these 4 elements are, the basic elements that basically created this earth, and eventually will have to do with light also. By using the triangle as a symbol of the elements, the ancients did justice to the metaphysical sense of the nature of these elements. Further, the symbol expressed precisely what it means to say. The 5 triangle pointing upward as cause, the water triangle pointing down as inverted fire. Absolute unity makes manifest. Thus, in the beginning, all was water, say our masters, for although water is not as yet form matter, as is earth, it is the source and is truly matter without form. For example, Phil Langdon shares this information that we're mainly almost all of us, not all of us are made of water. In fact, 80%, if not more, in our body. So we had to come from water. We had to come from the sea, is what Phil shares out about what happens. But there's also, we know that there's a clay matter here also. There's dirt within us also. So that's earth. And then naturally you have to have fire in order to do certain things with that clay and water, you see. Anyway, kind of digressed here. So further, the symbol expresses precisely what it means to say. The 5 triangle pointing upward as cause, the water triangle pointing down as inverted fire. Absolute, yeah, I've done read that, sorry. We already know that the 3 of water needs a fire unit, the seed, in order to coagulate into earth and become 4. We see how the triangle of fire is pure, how the triangle of air is fire, having taken on the humidity of water, which is the other opposite and pure triangle, and how the triangle of earth is the triangle of water, whose humidity has been compensated by the dryness of fire. The perfection of all perfections is signified by pure fire, entirely compensated by pure water, which means that all has returned to a perfect equilibrium where nothing dominates any longer. The 4 elements, that is, have returned into one, the sole singular one. The 4 qualities are compensated, that is, fire plus water. The hexagram called the Shield of David in the Kabbalah is in fact the key to cosmic measure, as we shall see later in the functions of pi, and no less than the symbol of reality, that is, the pyramid. We can already understand that the pyramid with square base best represents the square base of the 4 triangular elements, that is, its faces. 4 times the triangle, this by necessity is the pyramid. We see here again that each step is the study of numbers, demands a complete explanation stemming from the contemplation of each number, and thus the study of number becomes the study of the laws of the world. Have we, in our consideration of the Holy Terra Radius, exhausted the totality of what is contained therein? Far from it. We know the 4 numbers and their qualities. We know the 3 principles of light. We know the 4 elements and their nature. We know there is a non-engendered and a generated square, but yet we know nothing concerning their nature and their possibilities. All this we can contemplate during our illusory promenade. We shall now learn something extraordinary, something sacred to be kept well guarded in our hearts. To begin with, we will interpolate a secondary explanation. We have frequently referred to the ancients, and with good reason. In order to approach science, we must learn its terms. A tradition that will never be lost designates as the ancients. These masters of sacred science, who for the most recondile reasons are guardians of knowledge concerning the laws of creation and becoming, faithful keepers of a tradition in all detail of that Genesis, maintaining an integrate form without alternation, just as we find it traced in the temples of Egypt, just as the Nordics verbally safeguarded the Edda and the Celtic bards the legend of King Arthur. The ancients are our masters. They teach us point by point, step by step, The ancients are thus never cited without implications of a fundamental teachings. To return to their numbers, we now know 4 of them. That is, give the complete 10 units of the first decade comprising all possibilities. This is the triangle of origin, whose character entails 9 units grouped around the divine and incomprehensible unity. Quranic myth illustrates this through the Heliopolis mystery, recounting the creation of the great Enoch, the 9 principles born of none, the primordial waters, as taught by the Kabbalah. The mystic Tetrats appears as 9 legions of angels surrounding the throne of the hidden God, quote, he whose name is unknown. The reason why he's unknown, there was no one there to give him a name, because he is the beginning without end. But we have learned that we can understand nothing, that we can know nothing that is not initially triangular, so that only the figure constructed around the original unity will be the first perfectly comprehensive form. The triangle of the decade, or tetrads, is the metaphysics or divine triangle, while the triangle of 15, or pentats, will be the first triangle of manifested things. So this will be showing a drawing here. There's 15 of them instead of 10. This is what they call manifested tetras or pentateuses. When this triangle is manifested, we see how the 12 sites surrounding the divine creative triangle. This one, two. Okay. Sites of the world, and as they are animators, they are called eminence, or the zodiac, which is animal cycle. It is the emanating God who gives life, but it is the 12 sites that will bestow the animated animal body, and they will dominate the 12 parts of the human body. This can be related to the 12 meridians of Chinese acupuncture, the 12 vessels within which circulates the energy emanating the diverse organs. The channels by cosmic ebb and flow conduct the white and red solar energy through all these sites where the 12 powers sleep, enclosed in the organs, once every 2 hours of the night and of the day, each one of the 12 awakening with the passions of Ra, the sum of the blood, and then goes back to sleep. The 3 mysteries of Pharaonic myth admirably illustrates what has just been said concerning the mystery tetras and the manifested pentateuchs. Heliopolis teaches the metaphysics of the cosmic opus by revealing the creative act that schisms, the unity none, is also speaks of the birth of the 9 principles, the entire basis on which the sensory world will establish itself in becoming accessible in human intelligence. In Memphis, the metaphysical principles are materialized, and with Plot and Selmamel and Nefertum, the first form triad appears, explaining about Heliopolis affirms. That's why we have the Trinity, folks. You see, all of that's still a small triangle. You have 3 points. They're illustrated by the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Only in Thebes will be the fruit of this Genesis be defined with the triad Aman, mud, and Krumsu. There exists as anomaly of the myth, especially only through the penitents in Thebes. The great Enoch comprises 15 leaders, and the last of the 15 being Anunit, I-U-N-I, as an aspect of Aman, is called Master of the Nine. So this is going to be a drawing here of a man. And these are going to be the characteristics of certain parts of the body here on this diagram. And let's see if we can get this thing where I want it at. So you can tell just simply it's the first one here on the right-hand side at the top is a ram, which represents the forehead part. And you'll see each one here represents certain parts of the body, different symbols. And then you see the same thing also on the left-hand side also. So this is figure 19. It's the attribution of the 12 signs of the zodiac to essentially the parts of the body. In the pyramid texts, the vertebrae of the neck are attributed to the bull. The heart and the chest are written with the chest of the lion and are attributed to Bastille, B-A-S-T-I-T, the cat. Peaceful aspect of the lioness. The belly is attributed to Nun, that is the virgin. The two thighs, generally aspects to Net, N-E-T, and Selker, the scorpion. And Philae, the Osiris Nile, is shown as springs streaming from the leg of Osiris, that is Aquarius, etc. And of the feasts of the new moon, the insistence on the number 15 is unmistakable. Moreover, thought, master of time, number, and measure, occupies the 15-finger breadth on the royal cubit. He is the master of the 15th nome of Upper Egypt, called Hermeticus, the nome of Hermes, and of the 15th nome of Lower Egypt. He presides over lunar phases and conducts the solar bark in the daily circumnavigation through the twice 12 hours of the daily cycle, as well as through the 12 months of the year. Thought himself etymologizes all that is imparted by the necessarily perfect triangle of the pentas. This triangle contains all that can characteristic triangle form. For this reason, it is held to be secret. We will here attempt to raise the veil a little, and we shall see how grandiose the merest glimpse can be. 12 units define the triangle in its form, animated by the divine triangle, which means 15 absolute units. If we deduct the units of the base, that is namely 5, there remains only one side 4 units, on the other side 3 units, thus giving the numbers of the sacred triangle. The square of 3 is 9, and the square of 4 is 16, the latter being essentially female and material in nature. The two combined, 9 plus 16, are certainly perfection in their role of procreative square. 25, or the square of 5. Thus, we have always found at the final term of creative numbers this marvelous number 5, which closes the cycle of casual or oriented or original numbers as the Pentateuch does for the Genesis of Moses. The Pentecost for the Christus revelation as the 5 fingers of the hand and 5 members functioning the head. For man, the 5-branched star. Thus, one has created the world up to man. First, it has split into 2 aspects of itself. It looked at itself and saw alone. Its other aspect thus becomes 2, being 1 and 1. This is a revelation of it as Trinity, and here strategy detail must be stressed. The cross is not formed of equal branches. The top part is worth 3, the lower part 4. the transverse branch 5. We'll show you that here, the cross. So figure 20 is the cross of dark blue enamel on gold. Drawn here in black is proportionate with 3 for the upper branch, 4 for the lower branch, and 5 for the transverse arms. And in the Christic image, which refuses to use the phallus as a standard measure, one of the branches has been lengthened in order to complete the measure. For the secret of the cross is that it forms not only 4 branches and 2 diameters and 4 triangles, but also 3 unequal measures, A and W, a symbol that truly comprises all, for man is fixed upon it. Having thus attained the 3 principles that the ancients also called sulfur, salt, and mercury, or emanating fire, sustaining matter, and fixing form, we see that these principles do not exist without duality. Matrix of the fundamental 4 elements being given at the same time, fire and air contained in water and earth, as the ancients put it. The 3 principles that come to us, as does the creative creative breath from the 12 sights of the world, are immanent in these 4 elements, as are the equal square, which gestates everything, the imagination of the sun, and the suns are stars, the radiance of none showing Hathor within a square. This is the matrix of all, the matrix feuditated by itself, within itself. Thereupon commenced the evolution of what has become, through the mystery of number, the cosmic law of harmony. And that is the conclusion of chapter 6 today. Appreciate you being here. Again, this is a work by a gentleman named Rene Schwaller, and this title of the book is called The Egyptian Miracle, an Introduction to the Wisdom of the Temple. And this was dealing with what we call in chapter 6, dealt with what I call the elements and the triangles. Thank you for being here, and I wish you a good day, and you take care. Oh, a gentleman says something here. Gregory celebrates. Okay, good to see you, Gregory. Um, yeah, I have this book here with my hands, learning some things gradually. So I just thought I'd share it with the rest of the people out there. Anything that's done by Rene Schwaller is well worth the time, because him and his wife spent 15 years in Egypt, back in the 1930s and 20s. His wife also has written books. I don't know if you're aware of that. They were both what I would call very much scholars. And in reality, Rene and his wife was a benefit, if you understand, because she was there with him to understand and also draw her own conclusions. So just thought I'd share that. Yeah, I've already done I read the book, The Temple of Man, already. And I've also read another particular book, which escapes my noggin up here. Another person you might be interested in also is, which I've read probably 3 or 4 chapters of, is a guy named Alban Boyd Kuhn, Kuhn. I'm reading a book, also sharing on here on YouTube, called The Shadow of the Third Century. Um, Very good book. Um, Basically shares what I would call how Christianity in itself um, has muddied the water. As to say that they basically took works from the pagans and they took those works and then eventually they destroyed those works. That is, they destroyed that for the mystery schools, so to speak, and for those that wanted to know. And they destroyed also the libraries and that had these works, and they took them all. You see, in order to have control of all of it. But yes, that's someone I would recommend you look into. But yes, Rene Schwaller is definitely a plus. So good to see you, Gregory. Thank you for your comments. Keep up with the book, and also let me know what you think about it. Uh, it's something that was suggested by a gentleman named um, Phil Langdon. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's on YouTube. His name is Langley, Langdon, and I've been looking. He suggested this books too. He suggested these two authors, and so I'm reading these authors. Also, I just thought I'd share it with the rest of the world. So yeah. Thank you for being here, Gregory. Thanks for your comments. Um, yeah, check them out. You know, well worth it. It's well worth looking at all this. But what I understand is simply is that Schroeder, Rene, basically, he's in the minority of the perspective of what the temples were. He basically, the temple he was at in Upper Egypt, and there are, again, this is one of the books we're talking about here, the Temple of Man. Uh, it's reveals what takes place within our own bodies. You see, it reveals that back then. So another book that I've been recommended is the Dead Saints Chronicles. It's about near-death experiences written by John Anthony West. Yeah, I don't know who John Anthony West is, but I do know that Phil Langdon shares near-death experiences that are really very eye-opening for those who go into what we call the there for a short period of time, so to speak, even though it seems like it's a lifetime for them there. It's but a very small smidgen of time here on this planet. So it's kind of interesting to simply hear their explanation of what happens to them. I think what I understand from some of the people is that when your thoughts are, um, when you pass away and you have these, what I call somewhat negative thoughts, you basically create a horrifying event in some ways in your life during that time, and then you cross back over into where in the 3D world we're in. So it's just kind of interesting when they say these things and such because they're not all, most of them are very positive, but then there also are some that are somewhat negative. And I've basically learned this from Phil Langdon also. He shared that with me also. So you might want to check him out also. Brilliant guy, very brilliant. He's located in London, England. So thank you, Gregory, for your comments, and hopefully see you later. And you'll be more well to free. I think I have heard John Anthony West. I just don't know much about him, so I really don't comment because I mean I've heard of him, but I don't know much about him, though, Gregory. So, all right, thank you very much. You have a good day. Okay.